Jacksonville, where I felt like we thought was going to be the game of the week. And then it turns into a defensive battle that no one could predict. It felt like the Chiefs were trying to give the Jacksonville Jaguars the game, and then every time it happened, the Jaguars would get stopped. There was a miscommunication, and I feel like there's a real problem on this team, and some of the criticism that's happened with Doug Pederson, as I think is valid, is he's just trying to do too much too early with the play calling. Like, we had that flea flicker back and forth. I think it went from ETN all the way to the other side to Christian Kirk, ends up losing a yard, and he's trying to do too many complicated things with the offense, where I feel like the Jags should just keep it simple. You are going up against a tough defense, and I think Kansas City's defense is better this year with George Karlaftis in year 2. He was an absolute problem with Chris Jones, getting to the quarterback, stopping the run, holding the Jaguars to field goals in that game. So I feel like the Chiefs defense stepped up, but I feel like Doug Pederson needs to take a step back, where we don't need to make this offense super complicated. You have Christian Kirk, you have Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, and some weapons. We don't need to try and make something happen every single play. And then for the Chiefs, offense looked shaky, but the Jags defense also played really well in this game. You had a lot of turnovers in this game. Kadarius Toney was still getting back to himself. Sky Moore had 3 catches, had the massive play that broke the game open that Patrick Mahomes threw him. So he was able to be in the right spot. Travis Kelce definitely helped, but feel like for the Chiefs, definitely have some work to do on offense. However, I think their defense is going to be really good this year, and it's going to carry them through some of these games. And then last thing I'll say about the Chiefs, really the energy guy for that team is Isaiah Pacheco. He kind of blew the game open in the third quarter, where he didn't like blow the game open, but he turned the tide, at least energy wise, where he was able to rip off a big run like he did versus the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I still don't know why they're giving Clyde Edwards-Helaire the ball over him. Like, I feel like they should just go more of a Pacheco focused run game and try and get him the ball more. Maybe they're saving it for the end of the season, but it's like, why are we still giving Clyde Edwards-Helaire the ball? Why is he still on that team? There's been so many games that he's just flat out lost you.
Yeah. As somebody, everyone has that one player in fantasy that you can never forgive yourself for how much they burned you. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is that guy. So I get that for him completely. But my takeaway from this is I was kind of hesitant to embrace the Jags defense because I feel like they hadn't quite proven it yet from last year. I think their defense has improved from last year. Their number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker, he's looked like he's taken a step forward on this team. And then for the Chiefs, I feel like this Chiefs defense, I don't think it's getting enough credit. I think it's their best defense that I've seen probably since their first Super Bowl. Yeah. Chris Jones coming back was massive for him. He was all over the field. Mm-hmm. George Karlaftis, monster. And I like their secondary as well. So the Chiefs defense, I feel like that's what won them their game. And then for their offense, I feel like they're starting to piece things together. But this is an offense that's going to start a little clunky, especially with a lot of inexperienced wide receivers. Even with Kadarius Toney, he hasn't seen a lot of playing time with his injuries. Sky Moore didn't get a lot of playing time last year, and then there's a couple of rookies in the mix. Travis Kelce's coming off of an injury. So give them until about week 6 for them to start running. But the Chiefs, I think they'll be fine, but they seem a little vulnerable at this point. I think they're definitely a beatable team at this current pace, but I like overall, I think they're starting to piece things together. Kadarius Toney caught passes this time. So yeah, that's cool. Good. Same with Sky Moore. He actually caught a pass this game.
Yeah, Sky Moore had some electric plays. Do you think there's something to my point about Doug Pederson where like this looks okay, this is too much sometimes?
Yeah, I think it could be a little bit of an ego thing for him. He is the guy that outcoached Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl, and he's got a little, I think also there's an Andy Reid effect. He's coming from the Andy Reid tree. He's trying to outcoach him as best he can. So he's going to come up with these funky play calls, something that Andy Reid is also known for. But I think him facing his alma mater essentially, and, you know, also trying to show like how much this offense can rip. I do see it there a little bit. I think that if it wasn't against Andy Reid, it wouldn't have been as apparent. But him facing off against, you know, what brought, you know, kind of who taught him the ropes in a way. Mm-hmm. I think that's why he's kind of going that way.
Yeah. And I think too, that's definitely a good point there with Doug Pederson coaching up against Andy Reid and his alma mater. And it seemed like the Jags were almost jittery in this game. They were almost like a little too amped for this game, and then they had plenty of opportunities in this game that they just didn't convert. There are some throws though, Zay Jones, you just got to get your toes down. And like that's just a pro move where Trevor hit you in the end zone. And I thought that was a pretty good throw from Trevor where Zay Jones should have had that touchdown. And there are a few throw passes from Trevor where the receivers just weren't getting their feet down. However, to be fair, this is a game where Trevor, you have to step up and be able to make those plays. I get that Chris Jones is being an absolute problem. The Chiefs defense was electric in this game and shutting you down. However,